old were you the first time someone handed you a gun or you had a gun in your possession? How old were you that, you were walking around with a gun?
15, 16.
I guess there was an altercation that happened on a golf course.
Yeah.
You actually got hit, right? With a golf club?
Yeah.
But by who?
Nate Dogg.
Everybody was gangster out of the crew. Me and Nate was just the robbers of the crew. Put it down in the crew, you know what I'm saying? So, when it come to whooping see the Nate Dogg and Daz.
When the King of Hooks and the Godfather of Rap link up, you know it's about to be an iconic duo. That's exactly what Nate Dogg and Snoop Dogg brought to the game. Two legends who left their undeniable mark on hip-hop, but before they became household names, these two were straight-up street thugs with deep ties to the infamous Rollin' 20s Crips.
He started hanging around the Rollin' 20s, Rollin' 20s as in Crips. Long Beach, there are no Bloods. It's all Crip. He got his education from them. He learned how to make something out of nothing, and they embraced him.
Now, rolling with a gang like that, you're bound to get caught up in some wild stuff. And apparently Snoop and Nate weren't any different. Word on the street is, they were a menace to their community back in the day. Snoop Dogg was given a gun as a kid to handle who knows what, while Nate Dogg had a rep for being the hardest of them all. A skilled robber and someone who wasn't afraid to throw hands when things popped off.
How old were you the first time someone handed you a gun or you had a gun in your possession? How old were you that, you were walking around with a gun?
15, 16.
Everybody was gangster out of the crew. Me and Nate was just the robbers of the crew. Put it down in the crew, you know what I'm saying? So, when it come to whooping see the Nate Dogg and Daz.
One story that always gets brought up is the infamous golf course incident involving Nate Dogg, Dresta, and BG Knockout. Things got so heated that Nate almost took Dresta out with a golf club.
I guess there was an altercation that happened on a golf course.
Yeah.
You actually got hit, right? With a golf club?
Yeah.
But by who?
Nate Dogg.
He cracked him over the head and even broke his arm in the process. According to Dresta, if he hadn't blocked it, that swing could have been fatal.
I blocked it, but it was so much force that I didn't anticipate to even to block it. Broke my hand, and when the tip of it hit me, I bust my head, but then the tip of it broke off of the club. That's how much force, it could have probably if I didn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how serious it was for me.
There's definitely a lot to unpack when it comes to these two, so let's dig deeper into their story. Back in 1986, Nate Dogg and Snoop Dogg were just two kids trying to make their way through Long Beach Polytechnic High School. Nate was a senior while Snoop was a sophomore, but fate had something special lined up for them. One day in science class, Snoop, who always had a knack for rhythm, started banging out a beat on the table. Nate, with his naturally smooth voice, jumped right in, singing along to the rhythm. At first, Nate was just singing covers of popular songs, but according to Snoop, Nate had a way of flipping the lyrics to make them dirty and hilarious. That moment sparked a bond between the two that would eventually shape hip-hop forever.
How did you link up with Nate Dogg?
1986 at Poly High School. Nate was in the 12th grade, I was in the 10th grade. We would sit in the back of the class and I would beat on the table. And this nigga would be singing like other people's songs, but he would make them dirty.
Their chemistry didn't go unnoticed. Warren G, Snoop's best friend at the time, entered the picture, and the trio became inseparable. Together, they decided to form a rap group. Inspired by another group from Oakland called 415, they came up with the name 213, which was Los Angeles' original area code at the time and covered Long Beach.
And we just got tight like that, and then Warren G got into the equation because Warren G was like one of my best friends, and Nate Dogg was becoming my best friend because of the school we went to. So like, we clicked up and became 213.
For them, 213 wasn't just a number, it was a movement. They wanted to represent all of Southern California, from Orange County to the San Gabriel Valley, from Long Beach to Compton. They wanted everyone to know 213 was holding it down.
213 represents, it's not just a number to us, it's a movement. Because at one point in time, 213 represented all of Southern California. Whether you was in Orange County, San Gabriel Valley.
Come on, y'all. It ain't nothing but a motherfucking party up in here. These are my friends right here.
Their early days as 213 were raw and gritty. They recorded their first demo tape in the back of a Long Beach record store. It wasn't glamorous, but it got the job done. That tape ended up in the hands of none other than Dr. Dre, who heard it during a bachelor party and instantly knew these guys had something special. Dre wasted no time signing Snoop Dogg and Nate Dogg to Death Row Records. Unfortunately, this marked the end of 213 as a group. With Snoop and Nate heading to Death Row, Warren G decided to pursue a solo career, where he'd eventually make his own mark on the industry. Even though the trio went their separate ways professionally, their friendship remained strong. At Death Row, Snoop Dogg quickly aligned with Daz Dillinger and Kurupt to form Tha Dogg Pound, one of the most influential groups in West Coast rap. Although Nate Dogg wasn't an official member of Tha Dogg Pound, his presence was felt in almost everything they did. As part of the broader Dogg Pound gangsta clique, DPGC, Nate lent his iconic voice to countless tracks, further cementing his role as the king of hooks. In 1994, they even dropped the St. Ides EP together.
Corner store, you know what I'm looking for, St. Ides.
While 213 never reunited as a group, Snoop, Nate, and Warren continued to collaborate on each other's projects, keeping their original bond alive.
Seen a car full of girls, ain't no need to tweak. All of you search know what's up with 213.
But here's the thing. Beyond the music, Nate Dogg and Snoop Dogg shared something much deeper. Their roots in the streets. Both of them grew up in rough neighborhoods and had ties to the infamous Rollin' 20s Crips. Their environment shaped them, and they weren't strangers to the struggles or the chaos that came with it. To really understand who Nate and Snoop were before they became legends, we need to take a trip down memory lane. Starting with Snoop, his early life was far from glamorous. Varnado, a Vietnam War veteran, singer, and mail carrier, left the family just 3 months after his birth. And thus Snoop was named after his stepfather, Calvin Cortazar Broadus Sr., who sadly passed away in 1984. Snoop's biological father remained largely absent from his life. His mother affectionately nicknamed him Snoopy because of his fondness for the Peanuts cartoon character. Snoop was the second of his mother's 3 sons. Unfortunately, his mother and stepfather divorced in 1975, adding to the challenges he faced growing up. Snoop's family struggled financially, and he took on various jobs to help make ends meet. He delivered newspapers, sold candy, and bagged groceries, doing everything he could to support his family. Despite their hardships, the family remained supportive of one another, working together to get by. As a boy, Snoop began singing and playing piano at the Golgotha Trinity Baptist Church, showing an early affinity for music.
My mama had me leading songs in the choir. I didn't really want to do it, but when you're a kid, you can't really fight your mama. And my mom was my best friend growing up. She was my mother and my father.
He was also described as a dedicated student and an enthusiastic churchgoer, active in both the choir and football. But everything changed when he began engaging in unlawful activities and joining gangs during his teenage years, despite his mother's efforts to steer him away from trouble.
As I got older, we strayed away from each other because I chose to get involved with gangbanging and selling drugs. If I had a father figure, I wouldn't have been so easy to do it.
As a teenager, Snoop developed ties to the infamous Crips gang, getting caught up in a dangerous world of criminal activity. In a revealing 2018 interview with Howard Stern, Snoop opened up about how he idolized the older people in his neighborhood. He explained, "I was just hanging out, infatuated, looking at the older guys and seeing what they were doing and wanting to be part of it. And they're welcoming you in because you're young. And as you get older, it's like if you really want to be in a gang, you got to do something now," he continued. "Now you've got to prove yourself. It's not a game no more. Not a joke no more. It's not just we're hanging out. Nah, we need to do something now." And now it becomes, are you going to be that scary guy or are you going to be that down guy? If you're a part of a gang, you really don't want to be that scary guy.
I was just hanging out, infatuated, looking at the older guys and seeing what they was doing and wanting to be a part of it, and they welcoming you in because you young. And then as you get older, it's like, okay, well, you really want to be in the gang, you got to do something now. Now it becomes, are you going to be that scary guy or are you going to be that down guy? And if you're a part of a gang, you really don't want to be that scary guy.
The brotherhood in action that initially drew him in soon gave way to the harsh reality of violence and crime. Snoop's sentiments quickly changed when he experienced the brutal consequences of gang life firsthand. Talking about his wariness and apprehension regarding the toxic culture, Snoop revealed, "I was always scared. That's why I believe I survived, because you have to either have fear or respect. And I didn't understand respect, so I feared everything. So I was basically moving and grooving, trying to figure out what not to do. A lot of times I got shot at. A lot of times I had a gun in my possession and could have shot back, but I was too scared to shoot back because I was so concerned with my life. It's either fight or flight. And most of the time when you're out there, it's flight."
No, I was always scared.
Scared.
I'm scared. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I believe I survived, because you have to either have fear or respect. And I didn't understand respect, so I feared everything. So a lot of times I got shot at. A lot of times I had a gun in my possession and could have shot back, but I was too scared to shoot back because I was so concerned with my life. It's either fight or flight. And most of the time when you're out there, it's flight.
When Snoop Dogg was 17, he was still living at home with his mother, as most teenagers do. However, his mother kicked him out of her house at that age due to his involvement with gangs and drugs. Apparently, she felt her son was bringing too much drama back to her household, and she did not feel safe with the people who were regularly coming to visit.
Started selling drugs out of my mama's house. She didn't know this. So before you know it, we outside one day and they come by and do a drive-by. My little brother outside.
She was not having it. You're not gonna be selling no dope in my house. Bringing all that motherfuckers shooting over here. Then she put him out. Oh yeah, she was no joke. Snoop was sleeping in a Camaro.
After his mother threw him out, the young Snoop Dogg went through phases of homelessness. During these times, the aspiring rapper was forced to live out of his car. This arrangement worked for a while until one day he parked his vehicle on the wrong side of the street where parking was not permitted. The car ended up being towed away along with all his clothes and possessions inside. In his time involved with gangs, Snoop Dogg was arrested and sent to jail on multiple occasions. Shortly after graduating from Long Beach Polytechnic High School in 1989, he was arrested for possession of coke, and for the next 3 years he was frequently incarcerated, including at Wayside Jail. Though Snoop Dogg was heavily involved in gangs and drugs for much of his life, that is not something he wanted to be involved with forever. Snoop Dogg has admitted that he struggled mentally with the decision to leave that life behind. He was afraid the choice would leave him hated, or even lead people to want to hurt or off him and his family. Snoop's prudence and constant awareness allowed him to escape. His love for rap also helped. He recalled, "When I rapped in the hallways at school, I would draw such a big crowd that the principal would think there was a fight going on. It made me begin to realize that I had a gift. I could tell that my raps interested people, and that made me interested in myself." Snoop persevered, making music on the side, and eventually found refuge at Death Row Records, leaving the gang culture behind to pursue stardom.
I mean, I knew the end results to what I was doing was death or in jail.
Yeah.
But this other path I was choosing seemed like it had a bright ending at it, not a dark ending.
When he started recording, he took on the stage name Snoop Dogg. Then he would get signed by Dr. Dre to Future Shock Records, which later became known as Death Row Records. Dr. Dre began collaborating with Snoop, first on the theme song for the 1992 film Deep Cover, and then on his own debut solo album, The Chronic. This partnership was crucial in setting the stage for Snoop's debut album, Doggy Style, to become a massive critical and commercial success. Doggy Style was a game changer, helping to solidify West Coast G-Funk hip-hop. The singles Who Am I, What's My Name, and Gin and Juice became huge hits, reaching the top 10 most played songs in the United States. The album itself dominated the Billboard charts for months. Doggy Style featured a lineup of rappers associated with Death Row, including Daz Dillinger, Kurupt, Nate Dogg, and others. Following his acquittal, Snoop moved into a spacious 5,000 square foot home in the hills of Claremont, California, with the mother of his son and their 20 pit bulls. Fast forward to today, Snoop has sold over 23 million albums in the United States and 35 million albums worldwide. His accolades include an American Music Award, a Primetime Emmy Award, and 17 Grammy Award nominations. As for Nate Dogg, he grew up surrounded by music. His father was a pastor, and Nate's early days were spent singing at church services. His voice stood out from a young age, and it was in the choir of New Hope Baptist Church in Long Beach that he truly started to hone his talent. The church was more than just a place of worship for Nate, it was where his deep, soulful voice began to take shape. As a teenager, Nate moved to Long Beach, where his life would take a series of unexpected twists. At Long Beach Polytechnic High School, he crossed paths with Snoop, who would go on to be a lifelong friend and collaborator. They clicked instantly, bonding over their love for music, and though their paths would diverge at times, their connection never wavered. In 1987, at just 17 years old, Nate made a surprising decision. He dropped out of high school and enlisted in the U.S. Marines. It was a bold move, one he later explained as his way of proving his manhood. He was stationed at Camp Schwab in Okinawa, Japan, working as an ammunition specialist for the 3rd Force Service Support Group. During his 3 years in the Marines, he gained discipline and perspective, but the military wasn't where his heart was. He completed his service in 1989 and returned home, ready to pursue the dream that had been calling him all along: music. Growing up in Mississippi and then Long Beach, Nate was always surrounded by music. Leaving behind the familiar sounds of the church choir to join the Marines was a tough decision, but it gave him a sense of purpose and resilience. When he returned, it was like he had something to prove, not just to others, but to himself. He jumped back into music with full force, teaming up with Warren G and Snoop Dogg to form the rap group 213. The trio recorded their first demo tape in the back of a record store in Long Beach. That demo tape eventually made its way to Dr. Dre, who heard it at a bachelor party. Dre immediately recognized their potential and signed Snoop and Nate to Death Row Records. Once Nate joined Death Row Records, his career took off like a rocket. He made his debut on Dr. Dre's groundbreaking album, The Chronic, in 1992. His smooth melodic vocals were a perfect fit for Dre's G-Funk sound, a fresh blend of gangsta rap and laid-back West Coast vibes. Nate wasn't just a background singer. His voice became a defining element of the genre. Tracks like D's Newts and Lil Ghetto Boy showcased his ability to turn gritty street tales into soulful anthems. In 1993, Nate contributed to Snoop Dogg's debut album, Doggy Style, most notably on the hit track Ain't No Fun If the Homies Can't Have None. His hook on that song was so iconic it became a blueprint for countless rap and R&B collaborations that followed. By 1994, Nate had cemented his status as the king of hooks with his unforgettable performance on Regulate, a duet with Warren G. The track was a cultural phenomenon, blending hip-hop storytelling with smooth R&B vibes. It topped charts and made Nate Dogg a household name.
A car full of girls, ain't no need to tweak. All of you search know what's up with 213.
But Nate wasn't just riding the wave of Death Row's success. He was carving out his own lane. In 1998, he released his debut solo album, G-Funk Classics, Vol 1 and 2. The album faced delays due to Nate's departure from Death Row, but when it finally dropped, it was clear that Nate had a unique voice and vision. His second album, Music and Me, came in 2001 and solidified his position as one of the most versatile artists in the game. The album peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Top R&B/Hip-Hop Albums chart, proving that Nate was more than just a featured artist. He was a star in his own right. Despite his solo success, Nate was always a team player. Over the years, he became the go-to guy for hooks in the hip-hop world. His voice graced 16 Billboard Hot 100 hits as a featured artist. From 50 Cent's 21 Questions to Ludacris' Area Codes, Nate had a way of elevating any track he touched. His collaborations with legends like Tupac, Eminem, Dr. Dre, and Mobb Deep only added to his legacy.
Different area code. Area code.
Nate Dogg's life came to a heartbreaking end in 2011 when he passed away at just 41 years old. His health had been a struggle for years, beginning with a stroke in 2007 that left him partially paralyzed. Then in 2008, he suffered a second stroke, further complicating his condition. Despite these significant challenges, those closest to him never expected his life to end so soon. His longtime friend and manager, Rod McGrew, said that Nate's death came as a shock to everyone, especially because he had been making notable progress in his recovery. In the years following his strokes, Nate had been working hard to regain his strength and independence. McGrew shared that, before his passing, Nate had recovered much of his memory and was mentally sharp. He was aware, alert, and even showing signs of improvement, which gave his family and friends hope for the future. Nate's passing was a sudden and unexpected loss that left everyone reeling. "We appreciate the outpouring of response from all over the world," McGrew said in a statement. He also expressed deep gratitude for the countless prayers and support from fans everywhere who loved and respected Nate's music. The news of Nate Dogg's death sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community. Tributes poured in from every corner of the industry as artists, producers, and fans alike took to social media to honor the man who had given so much to music. Though his life was cut short, Nate Dogg left behind a body of work that will keep his memory alive forever. His hooks remain some of the most iconic in hip-hop history, and his influence can still be heard in the music of today.